I'm one who seldom uses the word equality. I prefer to use the word equity because equality is really a word that says that we are comparing like with like. No, there are certain things that only women can do. Men can shout all they want, but they can't carry children in their belly for 9 months. They are incapable of doing that. They are biologically wired differently. There are certain things that only men can do. That is why we talk of complementarity. That is why, if you want to be spiritual about it, God talks about a helper. And God talks about it in the Quran. God talks about it in the Hindu Gita. God talks about it in the Christian Bible. God talks about it in Christian tradition. It is complementarity. And once you are complementing each other, you don't use words such as equality. We are simply talking about we are human beings wired differently, playing different roles, and therefore helping each other to do what is desirable. What is power? You see, when we talk about power, we talk about political power. Uh, right now, Africa is the youngest continent on earth. Youngest to mean that our population between below the age of 40 is almost 80% in certain countries. And what young people need to do is to wake up and not to be used as cannon fodder by selfish politicians. You are talking about their role in the political arena. If today young people were to make a decision that we are going to elect good young people, they would do it. They cannot continue to be leaders of tomorrow. You are told you are a leader of tomorrow when you are 20, a leader of tomorrow when you are 40, a leader of tomorrow when you are 60, and you have this 80-year-olds who are telling you that you are a leader of tomorrow, and they themselves went into the leadership space when they were in their 20s. Africa's problem is a group of individuals right now, most of them in their 70s and 80s, who have refused to leave the stage. That is Africa's problem. And you see it across the continent of Africa. You see it in Cameroon, you see it in Zimbabwe, you see it in countries such as Kenya, where you have individuals who have been on stage since the year dot, and they still want to dominate, to rule the roost. It is the duty of the young people to rise. And history has taught us that when young people rise and take their positions in different sectors, then they achieve. Look at the struggle for independence in Africa. The people who are in the struggle for independence were in their 20s and their 30s. The people who are in the revolutions, whether you are talking about this, the Sharpeville massacre in South Africa or the Soweto massacre, all these were young people. It is the young people who must rise up and use the power of the vote to ensure that they are present in the leadership arena. But they must also remember that youth in and of itself is not a qualification to serve. There are many young people who are dangerous to Africa, and there are many old people who are dangerous to Africa, and equally there are good young people and good old people. So it must be a mix. Leadership must represent and must reflect the complexion of the society. And young people in Africa, in my view, are not playing their role. They prefer to be used in riots. They prefer to be used as ginger group. They prefer to be deployed as goons. They prefer to be used in a negative fashion. Yet if they organize themselves, then they could make demands of political leadership and be present in every arena for the benefit of this continent. If you look at what happened, for example, in what was called the Arab Spring, young people came up and they simply went in Tahrir Square and they said, we demand certain changes. That is one method where there is an awakening of the people. Political maturity rises in that way. But mentorship that you talk about is simply observing what others have done. If you look at South Africa, for example, you see how young people are involved in the political arena. If you look at the economic freedom fighters in South Africa, led by my good friend Julius Selo Malema, they are involved, and they started being involved in the youth cadre. If you go to Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania, they have a youth cadre. If you go to Rwanda, they have a youth cadre. And their youth wings or cadres are not just people who are used to erect tents or to shout at political rallies. They are involved. And this is very critical. In other words, they need mentorship through clear party organs in places where there are proper political parties, and they can also be mentored through other avenues. And in that way, then they become leaders. If you go to Tanzania, for example, they'll tell you, I started serving as a cadre of Chama cha Mapinduzi, or I started serving as a cadre before the merger of Afro Shirazi. If you go to South Africa, you'll find African National Congress say so. If you go to Mozambique, Frelimo says so. If you go to Angola, to Namibia, SWAPO says so. If you go to Angola, MPLA, they have party cadres. And this is what we need. In Kenya, of course, we don't, because parties keep on changing every other night. So there is nothing to be a cadre of. You are a cadre of party A today. The party A has become B, it has become D, it has become C, it has mutated. So it has no form. But the most important thing is that they must be organized. And it's the duty of us who are slightly older to use our position and our experience to mentor young people. The reason why we mentor young people is because we have lived a little longer, made a number of mistakes, and we are telling them, we made these mistakes, don't make the mistakes that